Some of you might recognize this vehicle from last week's tutorial that I did on this with Heroes blocks. These are my blocks today. I'm going to show you what happens when you take this suspension to the next level. I've got this vehicle loaded here, and I wanted to just mention this real quick while I'm thinking about it. These trusses right here, I've got a little gap between each one of them, and the reason for that is that a vehicle really high up here in the air that's got some stuff behind the ladder. If I just unanchored this and dropped it over top of a solid string of trusses, the vehicle would just be stuck to it, because like this thing here would just hook it, and it would skewer the vehicle essentially, and I wouldn't be able to drive anywhere because I'd be stuck to this ladder. But with it like this, if I unanchor, the ladder just falls apart and allows me to drive away. So this vehicle has got, obviously 8 wheels, 3 sections. The suspension that I showed in the tutorial is also on this one, and there's additional suspension between, let me fall off the edge here a little bit. So between the first section, the second, and the third, and I can show you by doing this. There you go. So you can see how this is the regular section for each pair of wheels that I showed in the tutorial the other day, and then this going across this way, these bars are the same thing, just rotated, and the length has been changed a little bit, I believe. I don't think they're exactly the same length, but yeah, essentially just turn it sideways, and then of course you got to figure out how to weave it in so that they don't touch each other. And I did the same thing on the bottom, so it's all reinforced with that same doubled up kind of thing. I guess I've just got 2 of them on this, 2 sets. So there's one at the very top and there's one set at the very bottom. I suppose I could anchor that and you could sit there and look at it, but it's essentially the same thing in the tutorial, just kind of went nuts with it. So, all right, now I'm going to show you what happens when you go to the next level. All right, here we go. This is thanks to a new computer and the ability to actually do this. I don't think it would ever work on my old computer. It does make my fan speed up a little bit, but that's a lot of action right there in a suspension. So I've got 5 sections, and all of those have suspension between the sections, and then each pair of wheels has its own suspension. So you can see that that side might be going nuts while this side is nice and stable, and the sections will separate from each other. If I get on a hill here, let me see if I can just climb up here real quick. So you can see there the height difference between them, and it just kind of, caterpillars, climbs over stuff. It's not the smoothest thing in the world, but you can get up there eventually. The holdup is actually it's hitting on the back side of the wheels here, and that kind of prevents it from getting around. So you actually do better if you hit a hill like straight on, and then you can climb up it where I could if I had wheels on the ground here, but I got high centered. Alright, anyway, you can see where very quickly this mast that most people lay down to show off their suspension is just ridiculous for this thing. This thing just laughs at that. It can go over the big hump. It looks a little bit better. Yeah, even that. It needs something bigger to really show off its action. Alright, so that's one of them. So on this one I've got vertical movement on each one of the pieces. They can move up and down relative to each other. And then on this one, I decided to do more like a caterpillar sort of thing. So each pair of wheels has its own suspension, much like that other one. But this one turns kind of like a caterpillar. The downside of this is that it doesn't have that vertical difference between the different sections because they're all connected by these servos. But it's still got good action as far as its bounciness goes and stuff. Its ability to hold the driver nice and stable. And it does have the ability to climb up the walls as well. It just looks a little different than some of the other ones. So yeah, it's kind of neat. It moves in an interesting fashion. If it was a little smoother as far as the amount of lag that it causes for everybody, it'd be kind of nice. But it works okay on mine. But I know when I'm in the game with other people, I don't load these things very often because most of the time I start getting lag complaints, and I know who's responsible for it. So be careful you don't overdo it. I'm going to reload this and show you that suspension. Alright, it's all reloaded, and let's make this thing visible so you can see it. There we go. Yes, it's a little crazy. Ignore the protection blocks up there. They really don't have a part in this conversation. So this one here has got counterweights on each set of wheels, and it's got the same suspension I showed in the tutorials, ×2, some on the bottom, some on the top. Same stuff, just copied up. And this little apparatus here is just so I can hook the protection blocks to this counterweight, to this section. The reason I hooked it to this section is because you can see my chair is here, so the joint that the chair is sitting on doesn't really move. These two guys are sort of tied together, so they have their own suspension between them. I mean, for each set of wheels. But this is the one that turns first. Is this servo right here? So I wanted that on there so that the protection blocks actually turn with the front end of the vehicle. I was going to tie them to the chair, but it really doesn't serve much of a purpose if you're in the process of turning and your protection blocks don't come around fast enough, so you end up nailing a rock or something. So anyway, there's that, and then there's this one. This one got a little crazy. I did this one with all the plastic. I did this one, the second one. This one here. I think this is all plastic as well. I would be totally wrong about that. It's all gold. Is it all gold? Oh my gosh, it is all gold. Okay, very heavy. All right, so you can see this set of suspension going across here. That ties. Oh gosh, what does that tie? That ties this, like, if this was section 1, section 2, it ties section 2, and it references section 3, and then ties to section 4. And then off of that, I've got this pair here with these two tied to these two, and that ties in the front one, the section 5, and then this set here ties in the back section, or section 1 if you were going to number them. Anyway, these here are the counterweights. The counterweights don't have to be just a single block. You can make them whatever shape you want to, as long as they're heavy and as long as they're positioned correctly. So that's how I ended up doing that. This one here, I attached the protection block core to the core of the vehicle. That's where my chair sits, is right in there. So that's where I attached that to. The reason I attached it to the chair one this time is because this vehicle doesn't have that caterpillar type turning. The wheels themselves turn. So on this one, the wheels turn, but they also have the servos that turn. So it's a little bit different. This one here, the whole body of the thing is straight, and on this one, the body curves. So you tie the protection blocks to a different point. Yeah, that's it. I pretty much just wanted to show you guys what that looks like. I can drop those things down, and let me get over here. I'm going to anchor, unanchor. There we go. You can see as they fall, they become kind of flexible. Ooh, that was interesting. I just saw some of my protection blocks fall off of the front of this thing. I'm guessing I have one hanging out here that's not actually tied into that core, those core rods. I'm guessing they probably end. Yep, look at that. They end right there. So I probably have another 1 or 2 protection blocks out here that are just hanging out on the end. They're anchored, but as soon as I unanchor, they fall through the world. I need to fix that and make those little rods longer. So I can jump in here and show you guys what this looks like when it's driving. That's really annoying to have that all green like that. There you go. You can see the kind of the bouncing action of each one of the little suspension pieces. And let's see if I might be able to drive up a wall here. There you go. You can see the middle ones, how they work. It's pretty slick. It does a pretty good job, and if it didn't cause so much lag, I would be doing this all over the place. I'm kind of continuously improving my vehicles. I'm always loading them. I'm always testing them. I'm always thinking about what can I do to change stuff to make it just a little bit better. I've got this one issue that's hanging over my head on quite a few of my vehicles, where the chair just all of a sudden stops working. I'm driving down the river, and whether my wheels are turned or going straight, whether I've got the jet on at the moment or not, I can't figure out a scenario that actually is to blame 100% of the time. It just seems like every once in a while the chair just ceases to work. I don't know if anybody else has problems with that or not, but I sure do. Anyway, stop taking up your time. I wish you all a happy day. Subscribe to Hero Plays Roblox if you haven't already, please. Like this video if you like this kind of stuff, and let me know what you think for additional vehicles, additional thoughts, other videos, whatever. Comment for us, and I'll get back to you. And thank you guys very much. Really appreciate your patronage, checking out our videos. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.